Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pole. Whoop. Welcome to the PolePedia show. Today is just going to be the solo show for me. So, unfortunately, my esteemed co host Destiny is not able to join us for the show today. So, that's okay because we have a lot of fun stuff planned anyway. So, as the stream title suggests, we're going to talk about the stages, different kinds of stages. But today I'm going to really dig hard and dive into LUPIT pole stages, the portable ones, versus the X-Pole portable stage poles. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I currently own one or more of each, and have been dragging them to and from the park for the last month, 5 days a week, building and unbuilding every single time I want to teach a class from my studio. Just because of COVID, we've been indoors, outdoors, indoors, outdoors, and outdoors right now seems the safest bet for us. So let's kind of talk about a little bit about each kind of stage, right? So, not a whole lot of people know about Lupit, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's because they're more of a European-based company, and maybe X-Pole is more of a American-based company. But all of my students had never heard of Lupit until they saw my stage. So let's kind of talk about the X-Pole stages first. So I ordered my X stage back in July the 13th, the day that California said, "Hey everybody, we got to go back to being closed." So I ordered the X stage, and because of all the back orders, right, people can only do so much in the COVID era. It took a month to get to me exactly on the date, and that's exactly what their website said. Said, "Hey, it may take 30 days to get to you." Spot on, right on the dot. Got it to me in 30 days. Um, Lupit poles, I bought two of them and once because obviously one stage isn't enough to teach people on, especially if you don't want to do any sharing, which we don't. And so I bought two of them, and a week later they got to me, which was super awesome. I did not expect that, especially since they're coming all the way from Slovenia. Yikes. But it was totally, absolutely worth it for me to have three poles and be able to teach like that. So, packaging wise, let's talk about how each of them arrived. So, I mean, they all arrive via FedEx. That's pretty standard, right? Standard shipping company. So, they all arrive via FedEx. All the drivers were amazing. Got me my stuff in one piece. Fantastic. There's a bit of a difference though when you receive one versus the other. So, when you receive your X-Pole, and your X-Pole stage, depending on, which version you bought. I have a, 45 millimeter chrome, the light stage, just because the non-light stage is a big Bertha, and I didn't want to be carrying that back and forth to the park, loading and unloading that monster of a beast into the car and all the time. So I got the light stage. It was with the way that it came in its packaging was that it was already boxed in all of the carrying packaging, which was super awesome. Very minimal plastic, very minimal bubble wrap. I honestly don't know if there was any bubble wrap, to be honest with you. So really just like the plastic on the box for sealing up my shipping information, and then plastic, covering like maybe the tape and stuff. And everything else, like it was kind of supported along with like wood slats. So that was really neat. Everything already came boxed in its carrying cases. So it was immediately just a cardboard off. Everything's ready to go. Throw it in my storage room. Cool. That was great. The only bad news is that obviously, because it was already in its packaging and it's being, kind of tossed around in the FedEx trucks, as much as you can toss around like 200 pounds of equipment. uh, the only bad news is that when I got it, it was already slightly damaged. And I don't mean the equipment itself, I mean the carrying cases, and actually one of the boxes was slightly damaged. So the box that was holding my poles, and then obviously the carrying case for the poles, was already had a tear in the carrying case so badly that the box that it came in also had a tear and like a circle you could see from where the pole had been riding against the box. When I opened the box, I really, really thought that it was going to be like my pole was missing. It like flew out somewhere along the drive from, LA to here. And I was just like, oh no, my box, my poles, everything was obviously intact. But I already started with a torn carrying case, and that does not make well. So the other thing that was slightly torn was just the carrying case for the actual stage, right? The actual base of the stage. Other than that, everything else was Gucci. It got to me when they said it was going to get to me. It was already in its carrying cases, and everything was in one piece, thankfully. So, with that being said, there's a difference when you receive your Lupit poles. So I'm going to switch over for a second and show you guys some of the pictures that I have for what happened to my X stage. So I'm going to switch over just like this, and you're going to see a glimpse of my OBS, but no stream keys for you. Hi. Hi, chatters. So let's kind of switch over and see the kind of damage that I'm talking about. Like I said, there was no pole floof. um, and so there was so let's pop over and I'll show you the pictures what I'm talking about as far as damage. My pole itself completely intact. Boxing just a little bit spooky on my side, right? So let's switch over to here. You guys can still hear me perfect. All right, so this is what I'm talking about, right? So as you can see, hopefully you can see that. As you can see, this box actually has a complete tear. You could see straight through the sky. That's actually the sky. So you can see that it's totally not how that's supposed to be. And you can also see how I thought that my pole was, gonna slide right through. This is the base again before I like opened up the rest of the way. So you can see where the poles in their carrying cases had been hanging out. Um, and obviously that's not that great. Same thing here, also my foot, which I'm sure you love. Um, Again, just showing you that, hey, look, it's open, it's not so bad. And then this is the tear on the case that I was actually talking about. So this is the carrying case, and it ended up tearing on me in a week. So much so that I had to super glue it and stitch it up myself. This is the stage base carrier, the tiniest tear, but that tear will definitely wear on me in the future, right? I'm gonna have to sew and glue that one as well. Same picture, just from a different angle. All right, so let's switch back. Uh, Talk a little bit about. Oh, yeah, I know, right? So, what happened when I received my Lupit pole in the mail? Because it got to me first. It got to me within a week of ordering it, which was amazing speed, especially from coming from all the way coming from all the way from Slovenia. It got to me in a week. I tracked those boxes like my life depended on it. And it doesn't, my life doesn't depend on it, but my business does. So So when it got here, I was very excited. I ordered two poles at the same time. So let's show you what that looks like when you get those boxes, right? So when I get those boxes, whoop, 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 whoop. Oh, I only have one picture. Boo. That's sad. Boo. When you get the boxes, you get three. You get this one small one, which hosts the actual base of the pole. I call it the UFO because it looks like a crazy spaceship. If you own a Lupit stage pole, you know what I'm talking about. Then you get the short little square boxes. Those are the plates, all six plexiglass plates, and you get all of the carrying bags in a separate box. The other thing you get is a humongous long box with the poles and all six legs to the pole. So for that one specifically, right when I got those, I was super excited. Unboxing it, lots of normal packaging that you would see, right? Styrofoam, lots of tape, lots of, cardboard in there to make it not bounce around. Um, Not so much styrofoam, just quite a bit of plastic, and then obviously lots of cardboard to make sure that the poles don't bounce too much. With the packaging, I saw no damaging at all. Like because the stuff wasn't in the carrying case, there wasn't any reason for the carrying cases to get damaged. But of course, obviously now I have to take it all out and then, shove it all in the carrying cases. So there's a bit of a pro and a con depending on how you feel about whether you want your stuff to arrive in a carrying case already or you don't. So I got all my Lupit poles. I'd never put together a Lupit pole before. Put it together without reading the instructions, because, yeah, don't do that. Or watching the videos. And so I just kind of put it together. It was relatively intuitive. I only like messed one thing up, right? So as far as shipping it and getting it to you right now, right, depends on the company and how much they're being ordered from, COVID, how that's affecting their shipping, how that's affecting their products. Just because the X-Pole took a month to get to me doesn't mean that they're, bad or anything. Just that's the experience that I had, and they were super upfront about that as well. Um, all right, that's just how they get to you, what to expect when you see them, and like everything of that nature. Now, there are very big differences between actual usage. So I have 3 Lupit poles, slightly biased. Gonna try and keep as unbiased as possible. So I have 3 Lupit poles and 1 X stage. My Lupits are 45 millimeter stainless steel, short legs with plexiglass plates, and then my X pole is a chrome 45 millimeter light, so it's still, got the heavy plates. Like I said, all 4 of those poles I build every single time I want to teach class, so 5 days a week, and I haul them out of my house, from my car to the park, from the park to my car, and then back into the house. It's like moving 800 pounds of equipment. It's pretty nuts. And so I've put these poor stages through absolute hell, which is why I figured I should probably do a review today. Actually transporting them. The Lupit stage is 5 billion times easier to transport. And I say that because of the carrying cases and just the weight of the stage and the materials. The biggest difference that's made here is the plates. X-pole plates, they come in 2 separate bags. So 6 plates. So imagine 6 pizza slices for people who aren't as in the know about pole. Imagine 6 pizza slices, right? 3 pizza slices in one bag, 3 pizza slices in the other bag, and each of them weigh a lot because they are metal plates. Obviously, they weigh more. So carrying those is hell. For me, I am obviously relatively small and have little baby noodle arms. I can pole in them, but that doesn't mean I can lift really heavy metal plates. Um, so that is a bit of a struggle. And then the poles are fine. Like I said, my case ripped within a week. So 5 days of use, it ripped within a week, which was sad. But again, I sewed and super glued it because eventually it was gonna break anyway, as much as I used them. So with Loop it's a lot easier to move. There's 3 pieces. With the X stage, there's 4. With your X stage, you've got the actual pole and its carrying case, 1 set of plates, 2 set of plates, and then the base. Okay. With Loop you have um, the spaceship that I call it, the UFO, so the actual base of your pole, a one bag for all 6 plexiglass plates, much lighter in weight, extremely easy to pick up and take around with me. And then one bag that carries the legs and also the poles, right? So there's 3 bags instead. A little bit easier, also less crammed in my car. I drive a coupe. So it's pretty silly to see me rolling up to the park with all of this equipment. So, for me personally, just because I am smaller, it is harder for me to move the X stage about. Setup. So, packaging, X-Pole has me on the packaging, right? So we're just gonna backtrack and review. Packaging X-Pole has me because it came immediately in all of its carrying cases. Yeah, it tore just a little bit, but everything was ready to rock and roll. And less like package waste. Transportation, LUPIT pole. Weighs less, less baggage, easier for me to carry about personally. Building. Hardest part about building a next stage is the legs. So what I mean by that. So again, we're gonna talk pizza here as someone who used to, serve and cook at a Pizza Hut. Pizza's part of my life. So we're gonna talk pizza here. So if you know the little table that they set in the middle of the pizza, that's kind of like the base. That's where the pole mounts into, right? That's where you want it. And then the legs on the pole legs don't actually function like legs. Does that make sense? They start all together and you have to fan them out to create the rest of the pizza. So it's just essentially a fan. So you've got six legs and you've got to fan them out around the base. This makes the base really, really heavy, even though it's a light. Again, I'm a small person, so take that with a grain of salt. It makes the base really heavy, but it also, there's no specific spot for you to put those legs. You have to play a game of geometry in order to get them in the right spots. So you just kind of fan out the legs really quickly and start with the one leg that is screwed into spot. That leg is the one you start with, and then you start to lay down those heavy ass plates, right? Look, look, look. Once you lay down two, the rest of it shouldn't be so bad, but having to play that game of did I space these legs out properly? Almost you did, 100% you did not. So that's kind of a bit frustrating as far as that goes. The rest of it is really easy, right? You set the plates down, you pull the pins, you let them lock in, plates are good to go. The pole itself is three pieces, bottom piece of the pole into the little tabletop for the pizza, right? And then there is a joint that you stick in between the poles so that they stay together, and then the top of the pole. So that's the easy part. That is no problem. As someone who has built this stage way too many times and built previous X stages way too many times, that's the hardest part is actually flaring out the base. Is just trying to get all of those measurements even remotely correct. You learn. So setup, I can't go with X-Pole, and this is why. So the LUPIT setup is a little bit different. I'm actually going to show you a picture. I have a picture of the LUPIT setup because obviously, um, I took pictures of it first. I was really excited. By the time that I got my X-Pole a week after I got my two LUPITs, I was just like, I'm so exhausted. So the way that the setup works so those are the packaging that you get your LUPIT in. And this is what the actual setup looks for a LUPIT stage. This piece here in the middle, you can see is kind of what I've been referring to as the UFO. It comes in its own little package. And then these legs go in their own carrying case as well. So it gets really compact. These legs just kind of slot into their predetermined space, and then you just screw with a hex key all of these down, right? It's not that bad. I really enjoy this one specifically because each leg has its own spot. You know exactly where it has to go, instead of having to give yourself a guess. So that's why I really like this one instead. The con to that is the legs aren't attached already, but I'll take it. I'll take legs being unattached and knowing where they go when I put them on over not having them, right? Okay, so set up for that one, take out the spaceship, set it down, take the legs, put them in, screw it on, take the plates, lay them down. Plates are so much lighter. They're plexiglass. They're amazing. You lay them down, you push the slats in at the back of the leg to make sure the plates don't go anywhere, and then it's two pieces for the pole, which is amazing because it's a thread through instead of a joint that goes with the pole. So pole attaches to the top of the spaceship, other pole attaches to the top of the bottom piece of the pole. Done, magic. If you put myself and my biz partner in a race of who can put what together quicker, I'm gonna beat him on the LUPIT every single time. It's never gonna fail unless I'm like dragging behind super badly and just like being really lazy, right? So as far as build, Lupit has it for me personally, just because everything weighs less. I know exactly where the pieces go, and I don't have to, play any guessing games and do like the tiniest bits of adjustments, right, to get those plates where they really need to go. So Lupit's got me on two, X-Pole's got me on one. Actually, dancing on the stages, the spin on the Lupit is so much better. Also because you can easily transition to spin. It's just as it's almost like the new X poles that you buy for your home, right? Where you just have the twist and turn, but it's on the Lupit stage instead. So the loop it stage, you just twist the bottom, bam, instantaneously on spin and ready to rock. Their ball bearing for spinning is so smooth. It goes really fast, even though it's just a stage pole. I truly, truly do enjoy it. Um, X-Pole still got a hell of a spin for sure. Only issue is you gotta have hex keys to get that baby on spin. So if you're doing a performance on an X stage, if you wanted to do a spin and a static part of your routine, you probably want two poles. You're not gonna stop in the middle of your routine or your practice to sit down, undo two hex screws, and then get back up and get rolling, right? You're an absolute wizard if you can get those two like in your acts. I have no clue how I would integrate that myself. So for ease of use, as far as like spinning goes, loop it is easier because it's just that twist and turn. I've never had it come undone for me personally, like when I have, like when I'm dancing on it doing hardcore stuff. The X pole is great for people who are stronger, who are going to do some really crazy stuff, and for people who want a sturdy, like, want to feel like their product is sturdy enough to hold them. So, my students who identify as male prefer the X stage, right? Because they don't feel like it is as they feel like it is more sturdy for them and will hold them doing all of their crazier tricks. They're actually about the same weight in stages. The plexiglass can just make people feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I've tested multiple different people on all of the stages. And they're pretty similar as far as like safety and being able to dance on them. Some people really just prefer having really heavy plates to land on rather than the plexiglass plates. So my loop it bags obviously are not they're not indestructible. It took about a month for my loop it bags to tear, which is about where I'm at right now, right? So it took about a month for my Lupit bags to tear. The only place they've torn out of all the bags is right where the pole goes. So this is something I think that both companies should really look towards and try and work on. The solution that I came up with, and we'll see how well it goes, might talk about this on another show in the future. Solution I came up with is obviously when it tears, I'm going to sew it, but I'm also going to super glue it because poles, me, as much as I am taking those poles in and out of that bag, I need the Hail Mary of super glue. What I would suggest is something that X-Pole actually used to do with their packaging. I don't know if they do it anymore. So they used to do big cardboard tubes in your carrying cases. I have a bunch of these actually, from the studio. And so I have a bunch of them. They're big cardboard tubes that you put your pieces in, and then they had little like plastic caps at the end to protect your bag from being torn and exploded, right? Those bags are still in fantastic condition. Unfortunately, they don't have that anymore. Not saying that they need to use more plastic, just there needs to be a buffer at the bottom of everybody's like stage. Oh, I will look out for that E900, E9000 epoxy. 9,000. That sounds amazing. Thank you, Decidius, for. Um, So, for both companies, there needs to be a way to buffer that pole from going onto that pole bag and just rubbing it the whole time, right? Because as you're dragging your, stage to and fro, it's gonna get a little bit of damage. But until then, so what I've done for my X pole bag, I sewed it with fishing wire, obviously, because I don't think that regular sewing thread is gonna actually stand up to this. So I sewed it with fishing wire. I super glued all of the stitches because I'm crazy. And then I had some of those little purple disc that used to cover their cardboard tubes from their previous packaging. And I shoved two of those, one in each slot for their pole, right? So that it's not rubbing on that bag anymore. So even though I've sewed and super glued it, I still don't trust it. And I'm going to leave that there. So we'll see how that goes. Probably tell you guys in another month or so how it, actually held up. Pray that it does hold up. I really like my carrying bags. All of this information is with a caveat of I don't think most people use their stage poles like this. I'm gonna be real. Most people do not take their stage pole and carry it. Hello, how to break that thing. Most people do not take their stage pole and carry it to and from a park and build it every day for, 20 days a month. That's not normal, I don't think. So most people take their stage pole and they set it up somewhere really nice, right? It may be in their house or in their backyard, right? The most people used to travel with their stage poles is either to a show, or to like a photo shoot or something. Or if you're just going to hang out with your friends and they don't have a pole and you want to put it in their backyard for a minute, right? So I don't think the carrying cases were meant for the hell that I am putting them through. But because I put them through this hell, figured I might as well talk to you guys about it. So overall, I mean, it's obvious that I'm slightly biased. I own 3 LUPIT poles for a reason. They're easier for me to transport. They're easier for me to put up and take down. And I really enjoy the plexiglass of the plates. For me, it's easier to dance on, slip, slide, and move rather than the metal. And I really enjoy their spin mechanism. It's just a quick like turn and play, and then you have a good go at it. Obviously, this is not to say that X-Pole is bad. Some people prefer X-Pole instead. That's perfectly fine. Totally a valid opinion. I do still like my X stage, if but just for the purposes of carrying it 5 days a week for every single week is nope. It's not a fantastic travel pole. It just really isn't. It's great if you want to stick it in your backyard or somewhere in your house if you don't want to mount a pole or something like that. That's really my only difference on that. So that's been my experience with stage poles. Currently, I'm in California, and like I said, we keep going back and forth between being able to operate indoors and outdoors, indoors and outdoors. So I've just chose personally myself for my business to stay outdoors. It seems the safest bet at the moment, so this is why I have been beating the Jesus out of all of those stage poles so bad. So let me know in the comments what you have, what you prefer, what's your how are you using your stage poles? Because like I said, most people probably aren't beating them up like I am. Even studios in my area aren't transporting their stage poles like I am because they're not crazy. They're actually sane and have, some spot to just put them and leave them. Instead, for me, I'm, picking them up and taking them all over the place at this point. So definitely let me know in the comments what's your preference, what's your experience if you've got one, and then how are you using your stage poles? What fun, cool stuff are you doing with them? I love to see photo shoots of people on their stage poles. It's so cool. All right, so that's the off the pole section. And just because I knew it was going to be a solo show today, I pre-recorded the on the pole section, but obviously I may stop, pause, and then interject again. And then I'll obviously be in the chat as well while this plays. The on the pole section today is going to cover the pole sit. And oh boy, it's a doozy, but it's great. It's one of those beginner moves, right, that we have in the pole move dictionary that you can go and look. But today, the on the pole section is going to be a more in-depth coverage of how to pole sit, where to start if you've never done one, conditioning for it, and then the magic of no hand sitting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so give me just a second to switch over to the on the pole section, and I'll be right back in about 30 seconds. All right, we're back, and we're gonna roll through with the. No wonder you guys can't hear anything. You get to watch me play OBS for just a second. All right, now we're gonna walk through on the pole.
Welcome to the On the Pole section of the PolePedia show for today. We're going to cover what I'm going to refer to the whole time as the pole sit. It is incredibly notorious in the pole world for being one of the most painful tricks you learn as a beginner. Your inner thighs are not going to appreciate you for this one, but it does get better with time. So let's go ahead and do a demo. I've got an assistant coming in the corner, as you can see. Thank you, Bear, for helping us demo the pole sit. To do this demo, I'm going to go ahead and pull up, crisscross my legs, and lean my body to the side, right? It's your regular pole sit. And to come on out, just pick my chest up and drop my legs down. So, how do we get to this point? Well, the best place to start with most tricks that aren't super upside down is on the floor. So, I'm going to walk myself down to the floor and just sit with the pole as close to my inner thighs as possible. Obviously be careful of your private areas, don't smash those, but get it relatively close. You definitely want skin for this one, unless you're using sticky leggings. What I'm gonna do is just take my right leg on top of my left leg, right, crisscross, and from here I'm going to physically pick my chest up and lean over. If you're doing this, you should experience a little bit of pressure on your upper thigh right now. That's good. That's part of the contact that's holding you onto the pole. I'm going to turn towards the camera so that you can see the lean as I go the other way. I'm physically leaning my chest really far away from the pole. Most of this lean comes from the hips, but because I'm on the floor, being very exaggerative with my chest as well. Right? So that's the first place to start if you've never done a pole sit before, or if you're coming back to doing them and you're like, this is going to hurt. Second place to start is low to the ground. So I'm going to pull myself up into like this little chair position. And again, walk my feet to the pole. One hand is on top, the other hand is on bottom. I'm going to take my right leg, crisscross it over my left, tilt my hips before my feet ever leave the ground. And when I'm happy, I can pick them up, right? You can pick them up in straight legs, you can crisscross them low, whichever one makes you happy. Right? But I'm physically leaning my body and my hips in order to do this. It's great to start low because you can immediately just step out. If you need to, you can rub your thighs, right? Then there's the standing version. Once you're feeling comfortable with your lower squatting version, you can go to standing. I say standing because I don't want you to jump into the trick. If you jump into your pole sit as a newbie, you're going to want to, right? Because you're not going to be used to lifting the legs. If you jump into your pole sit, your thighs are going to squeak all the way down the pole. So if I jump, whoo, gravity's not going to be kind to you. Your thighs are not going to appreciate you later either. So for the standing version, I'm going to bring my chest all the way to the pole, take one hand on top, the other on bottom, and kind of wrap them around so that my chest doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to pick up my leg, which I believe is the bottom leg, and from here, pull down with my arms so I can lift and lean. Okay? So you always want to lean towards the bottom leg. If you lean towards the top leg, whoop, whoop, you're just going to fall off, right? Step out of that one. Still painful, still not so bad, you're not far from the ground, you can always step out. The last version is a little bit more advanced, but it's the full-blown lift into your sit. So you're going to take your hands a little bit higher, and instead of wrapping them around, you're going to leave them apart so that you can pull down from the shoulders and the arms, lifting the chest, and actually lift the legs up and then around the pole, very gentle and controlled. So this is more advanced after you've been doing your pole sits for a while. So from here, I'm going to wrap my arms around, pull down with the shoulders, up with the chest, lift my legs, crisscross them, and turn. So now that I'm higher, you can do a couple of things with your legs. You can leave them straight, you can bend the knees, whichever one your body prefers, you'll find out for sure. And then with your hands, you can leave them at chest high, You can grab one elbow around, so same elbow as top leg and lean to the side, or you can just bring them back. And then again, just step off the pole, right? If you want to experience Pain City, you're more than welcome to slide down the pole, but stepping off the pole is probably going to be a little bit better for you and your soul. So how do we get to this point where we lift into our pole sits instead of jumping or really jerking the leg right to get ourselves up and over? Let's talk about a little bit of conditioning to get you ready to actually lift. So the first one is obviously pain conditioning. Just because you can get up or even low doesn't mean your thighs are going to want to hold you, right? So for pain conditioning, I do suggest doing the low floor version of this, right? Obviously leaning to both ways. So if I do the low floor version of this, I have my legs already together, take one on top of the other, and then try to lift off my feet. This is great for pain conditioning because you're not very far, okay? You have to condition both sides for the pain, because when I lean this way, the pole is pulling up on my bottom leg and pulling it's very different pull on my top leg. So I want to make sure that I switch sides so that the parts of my legs that are being pulled are equal on both sides. Gotta earn those calluses on both of them. Second one is, how do I lift my legs up like that? How do I get them nice and controlled instead of trying to jump through it, right? Oh, planes flying overhead is definitely the pole gods raining down pain for pole sits. It's fine. So how do I get my legs to actually lift rather than jumping? A couple of different ways you can go about it. You can do leg lifts on the pole, so where you can start very simple. You just grab your arm around the pole, give it a big hug, take the other hand on top into a strong grip. For easy leg lifts, just conditioning, lifting up the legs, you can walk it out. If you wanted to do it a little bit more, you pull down from the arms and squeeze, and from there, lift up the legs and down. Do a couple of those in a row. You want to make it harder so that you get those nice straight legs when you lift. Same thing with the arms. So you're going to grab around, hold, pull, and from here, point the toes, readjust because you didn't do your strong grip before you pointed your toes, and then you're going to lift the feet. So really point the toes, flex all the muscles in your legs, and lift. And then set yourself gently back down. Try not to kick. If you don't want to do these conditioning exercises on the pole, you can always do them on the floor, right, where you lay down, hands to your side, or behind your head, your choice. And then from there, you can always just lift the legs. Okay? So you've got options on how you get this lower ab muscles and these hip flexors to work with you in order to get your legs up the pole. Last little bit is the arms, right? Because our arms are doing quite a bit of work. Even when we're doing this exercise right here, right, when we're just doing leg lifts on the pole, arms are still doing quite a bit of work. They've got to be able to hold you. What's the best way to get our arms a little bit stronger in this position? One of the greatest things that can help you is your pole pull-ups, right? You can start simple, where you have your hands up. Normally you would be relatively close to the pole. And from here, right, straighten your arms. You're gonna lose my hands for a second, it's okay. They're up top and they look like this. And from here, you're just gonna slowly lift yourself onto your toes and back down. Really pull through the chest upward and shoulders down. So chest upward, shoulders down, and then release. That's a beginner pole pull-up. Don't expect beginners to just full-blown lift themselves unless you are doing some awesome shit at the gym, okay? From here, the next version you can do, right, is the full actual attempt at a pull-up. That does not mean you have to get your hand above your chin, okay? That just means that I want you to get a little bit of gravity. So I'm gonna pull, my arms are gonna come together, down with the shoulders, up with the chest, lift, and down. My feet didn't go very far, but it's enough to get my legs off the floor and into the front of me so I can do some crisscross. Okay? So those are the conditioning exercises on how to get your sits to look really effortless and flowy. And then when you teach other people or show other people and they'll be like, oh, it's so easy. You can cry on the inside because it really, really hurts. Okay? Last little tip that we're going to do is the magic of no hand sitting. Right? So sitting with no hands. Originally, I told you that you could do a couple of different things with your hand. You can keep them on the pole. You can have one here. You can keep one here and lay back, right? Whichever one makes you feel happy and makes you feel empowered, okay? The other way that you can do it is with no hands. So I'm going to lift up, crisscross, and then I'm going to relax, okay? So how am I doing this with no hands? You might have noticed the subtle bend in my back. So what I'm doing is if my chest is way too far back here, I'm gonna fly off the pole. I'm gonna fall backwards, right? And you're gonna whoop, whoop, right? You don't want to spook yourself over and over. So what I'm doing is I'm leaning forward just the slightest bit so that my upper half of my body isn't in a downward trajectory anymore. So I'm gonna lean forward just a little bit and relax here, okay? If I don't lean, whew, right, my chest is really heavy and so is my big fat head. So I'm not gonna have a good time, right? Anything where you have to release your hands, I always teach my students to do little piggies went to the market. So because my right hand is on top, my right leg is on top, it's my dominant hand. So I'm gonna lean forward. Looks a little silly right now. You can seriously hunch if you're starting out. And then little piggies. So pinky, ring, middle, pointer, thumb. If you get stuck on one, say you get stuck here, at least you know you have a reference of how far you can get until you're comfortable, right? Giving yourself something to practice for each time. And then you have your lean forward, right? With no hands, making it look effortless, right? All right, I'm gonna shoot it back to us over on the other side of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in for today's On the Pole.
Of course, I'm muted. Hello and welcome back. Pole sitting, it is something. Also, we got interrupted by like a massive plane flying overhead. It sounded like it was literally on top of my house, which was super fun, and a small earthquake. All right. Thank you everyone for joining for the show today. Thank you if you're watching this on YouTube as well. Drop some comments, let us know what you think about the pole sit, if you've learned anything new, if you teach it a different way. Yeah, pole sits way better than plane sits. um, and again, drop us comments about your experiences with Lupit stages, X-Pole stages. I know there are other brands out there like Platinum stages, um, which you can, leave us messages about that as well. Until next time, everybody, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.